She's right there under the olive tree. Good morning. She doesn't want me to be here, so she's crying out, so I'll go toward her and get away from where she sees me. So she has a vested interest in where I am. At the beginning, she used to play so much with Soter. It's amazing all the skills in the different beings of nature, all the abilities, all the capacities. Good morning, everybody. It's great to have you all. See all these familiar faces. Welcome to Sunrise Stroll and Chat here at this wonderful Sea of Galilee, which has so many memories, so much meaning, so beautiful in itself, just as a water body, the lowest water body on Earth. Well, no, the lowest freshwater body on Earth. The lowest water body on Earth is the Dead Sea, which is another 200 meters lower, so more than 400 meters below sea level. People are asking me about this guy in the tent. He's okay. He was taken care of in hospital the other day, so don't worry. Thanks be to God. And he came back, and he's enjoying this nature here, obviously. There we are. I wanted to get down closer to the water there to see those gentle little waves. So the sun should appear over there at some point soon. And today we're back at Job, or back with Job. And we can say we're back with him because Job is wrestling with the mystery of suffering. The word mystery is a very interesting word. I think an analogy is to compare it to an iceberg. When you look at an iceberg, you see a little bit over the surface, about 1/5 apparently the scientists tell us, and the 4/5 are under the water and you can't see them. So ships have to be very careful because, oh, there we are. The sun is rising, people. There we are. It is right up before us. Good morning, everybody. A new day, the sun is rising. So I said the mystery of suffering. Why did I say the mystery of suffering? Because suffering is like an iceberg with so many other things also, the life of the human being. So we just see so much and there's so much hidden. And one of the biggest deals that's hidden is how God is working with that mystery of suffering. That's one of the biggest deals that's there. So we are confronted by the mystery of suffering, challenged by it, and Job is struggling. And I invite you to read the book of Job. Take your time. Today we're jumping to chapter 9. So yesterday, because of the feast of the angels, the archangels, we are missing the reading from yesterday, which is from chapter 3. And chapter 3 is a very difficult chapter. And Job is very negative. He's in, let's say, a depressive situation about the day he was born. So his suffering is so intense and so frustrating that he is surmising and pondering, and actually he's definitively convinced that it would be better if he had never been born. And I think there he's touching a nerve that is very sore today in humanity. So when the frustration is so great with suffering that we want to consider that it would be better not to be alive. And this is a big crisis in our world today. So what is a new life and a new day? That's a huge theme. And it's not philosophical speculation only, because it's actually political policy, legal policy that's being introduced in many countries to offer assisted suicide, which is to help somebody to kill themselves because they're so deeply frustrated about tomorrow. Tomorrow cannot be better than today. The evil and the suffering are so intense that it would be better if I'm not alive. And obviously there's little sunrise in that person's life. And it's a very sad situation, but we have to be realistic that there are many people that are so convinced. And this is where the great contribution of faith comes in, to show us a whole different scenario, a different angle on what's going on. If somebody right now is coming with a knife and starting to cut into your body, you would fight like crazy. Your whole family would fight. They would kick them off. They'd call the police. They'd call the ambulance already to be ready to help. They would. But if the person with the knife is a doctor and he's actually taking out an appendix in an emergency situation, everybody is just hoping that he will cut properly and he'll cut deeply enough and that he won't cut the wrong places and will get all the supplies he needs so that he'll be successful in cutting you, in entering his knife into your flesh. So we have two very different scenarios. And this is what faith does. Faith opens up a whole new sunrise on suffering. And it doesn't finish explaining it completely, because it's not about mental understanding, it's about walking a path. It's about walking a path of suffering. Just a thought crossed my mind right now that it cannot be by accident that the concept we have is Via Dolorosa, the way of the cross, the way of suffering, the suffering path, the suffering way. So it's not just about information. So that's one also little ounce of advice or a grain of salt for you in the processing of the book of Job, to understand that it's just one chapter along a path of revelation and discovering about the mystery of suffering, its meaning, and about how suffering doesn't have the final word. It's a very important word, and it's actually a word that's so important that it's a major shaping instrument of our growth. And in that light, then suffering actually can become an extraordinary ally. But to get that far is quite a challenge. So let's go to Job's reading today from chapter 9. Come on, good old Job, where are you here? There we are. So we're reading from chapter 9, basically until verse 16, with the one verse is omitted from that. Okay, so Job answered his friends, because you have all these guys coming along wrestling with Job. Everybody's wrestling with the mystery of suffering. Nobody is left out. Everybody is involved. And you've got these wise guys, and some of them are seeing it from a teenager perspective, and others are seeing it from an older perspective, and others are seeing from a conflict with God perspective. And God is a God of blessing, so why are you suffering? You can't be a good guy, you must be bad. And Job himself is wrestling with all of this. We shouldn't be afraid to wrestle with God. We're wrestling with ourselves, we're wrestling with suffering. And the moment we're at now with Job is he's wrestling. So get ready to go down on the mat to wrestle. Job answered his friends and said, I know well that it is so, but how can a man be justified before God? So basically the element that's going to come in here into this consideration in this reading today in the liturgy is letting God into the picture and letting him come in as God. Should one wish to contend with God, he could not answer him. It's Job debating God. God is wise in heart and mighty in strength. That's a wonderful line, because we're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the points God makes. And we need that, and we have plenty of doubt ourselves about our suffering. God is wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who has withstood him? He removes mountains before they know it. He overturns them in his anger. He shakes the earth out of its place, and the pillars beneath it tremble. He commands the sun. He seals up the stars. He alone stretches out the heavens and treads upon the crests of the sea. That's an interesting image here at the Sea of Galilee. Somebody walking on the sea. You can see how the evangelists writing the gospel, or even before it was written, just telling the story, experiencing Jesus walking on the waters. These concepts are there in the mind of the people who are familiar with these scriptures for centuries. He treads upon the crests of the sea, in the stormy sea. He's walking on the stormy sea. He made the Bear and the Orion. So we're talking about the constellations and the stars in the heavens, the Pleiades and the constellations of the south. He does great things past finding out. So that God does amazing things that we don't even have a clue about. And on Sunday, just as a little relaxation, our Padre community here, we invited the volunteers as well, and we saw the story of an octopus. And it was fascinating to see the life of the octopus. Apparently it's a new thing. And the world that's there in that octopus, I had no idea, no clue about, In fact, some of my confreres were avid octopus hunters as a sport in our vacations in the summertime when we were studying in Italy. And they spent many days hunting octopus. And these creatures have such a download of DNA and smarts. It's absolutely amazing. God does great things past finding out, marvelous things beyond reckoning. The scientists say that the more they study nature, the more questions they open up. Okay, they get to know a lot, but then there's a whole new area that they discover that needs to be explored. So for every area that they discover and explain, there's a bunch of other areas that need to be investigated. Should he come near to me, I see him not. Should he pass by, I am not aware of him. Should he seize me forcibly, who can say him nay? Again, when I read these lines that we just read right now, the thought occurs to me about the apparitions of Jesus when he was risen. Should he come near to me, I see him not. Should he pass by, I am not aware of him. Because he appeared among the disciples through locked doors. You just imagine what that text meant to those disciples, being fully aware of the book of Job. That's like basic Jewish literature, the story of Job. And it's amazingly in our hearts and minds, but for the people at that time, that was part of their national epic religious literature. And then Jesus appears and disappears. Should he come near me, I see him not. Should he pass by, I am not aware of him. You remember the walk to Emmaus, and there's a stranger there and they don't recognize him. Should he come near to me, I see him not. And then we have also that beautiful account of the judgment, and the Lord says, and you did not feed me when I was hungry. Where did we see you were hungry? In the least of these. So God has a way of being in hiding. Should he come near, I see him not. Should he pass me by, I am not aware of him. How much less shall I give him any answer, or choose out arguments against him? So for a while we're in a state of rebellion and we argue against God. We wrestle with him. We feel in this incredible conflict. We are broken. We are hurt. But now I'm choosing not to argue against God. So I'm recognizing that he's a bigger dude. And he has more knowledge of reality because he created it than I have. So I need to put myself in my place and let God be in his place. And if I don't do this, the wrestling I'm doing with suffering is going to be out of whack. It's not going to be in its right framework. And that's the big challenge for our present-day society and for believers in our present-day society, because our present-day society in a general way is basically secularized, post-Christian, and as such then the supernatural doesn't enter as a dimension. So there's all the fellows there with the knife cutting up my body, but I don't see that he's doing an operation. I just see he's cutting my body, and that's not good. So therefore we need assisted suicide. And then what a big challenge for us as believers living in a world that is in this struggle against an evil that we're seeing right now and trying to solve it right now. What a big challenge for us to first of all, to be patient, and also to be passionate, but also to be reasonable, understanding these secular people, how we're going to address them and speak with them and dialogue with them and wrestle together with the mystery of evil and how to solve it. And what we need to do for all the people who are then suffering, and how we can bring them a consolation and a hope and a comfort in the context of deep suffering. So the book of Job has a lot of content for us that's so relevant today. You know, some people like quip and they say, oh, these old books, they have nothing to say. You know, well, not really. So I'll finish up that thought with the Psalm 88, which also accompanied yesterday's reading that I referred to at the beginning. Let my prayer come before you, Lord. In Psalm 88. Daily I call upon you, O Lord. To you I stretch out my hands. So this is a wonderful psalm of intercession, of petition. And I encourage you to do that, especially if you and loved ones are in deep suffering. Now, on another note, as we were just reading that God can pass by and we don't see him, and God is near and we don't realize, well, actually, she passed by and now she's real and she's here. And Kathleen just arrived from Tiberias, where she lives with the volunteers, and I was expecting her. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning.
And why are you here today?
I'll need a microphone.
Excuse me? Oh, you need a microphone, of course you do. And then also, Kathleen, we only have a couple of minutes because we're going to stop in about 5 minutes. So if you can do a little update about the virtual pilgrimage and retreat that we're doing these days in a couple of, just like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, would be wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Oh, good morning. It's such a beautiful sunrise this morning. We saw it over in Tiberias. Just a correction. We actually have our community, the consecrated, live about 5 minutes away. So volunteers also live in Tiberias, so it is a grace. I wanted to just wish you good morning, all of you who follow Father Kelly's Sunrise and Chat. If you haven't received your copy of the newsletter from Magdala, I hope you can find that online, because there's a wonderful poem I think one of the viewers wrote about the Sunrise Stroll in Chat. So it was a nice poem. But the reason I'm here is because Father Eamon invited me to just remind you that we begin tomorrow on October 1st for our virtual pilgrimage. There's many thousands of people who will be following that pilgrimage, but I also wanted to mention that I think this evening we will have some preparatory talks, because Father Eamon, of course, is joining us for the pilgrimage to celebrate our Masses. Here from Magdala, we'll be celebrating the Masses according to the liturgies of the places we'll be visiting, according to the mysteries we'll be contemplating. So those introductory talks are with Father Eamon and myself, and we'll be discussing different things like what is a pilgrimage, how to prepare for a pilgrimage, what makes the Holy Land so important, not just in general, but in today's situation and circumstances. And then also we'll be speaking about the context, which is looking at one of John Paul II's writings called Rosarium Virginis Mariae, and that speaks about how Mary can lead us into a contemplation on Jesus' life. And so she being his mother, she being, as the Eastern churches call her, the Theotokos, the God-bearer, has a great deal to teach each one of us to understand, if we're looking to understand Jesus and everything that he's done and spoken. And so I think it's going to be a very enriching month. Now remember, there is a link on the Magdala.org website, which is still being constructed, but it's online again. And so you can register there. Father Eamon also has on his Facebook the registration information. And there is the videos will also be there later today. And there's a video that
the link is included in the description. Tell them that it's included in the description of this Sunrise Stroll in Chat.
So there's a description in the video in the Sunrise Stroll in Chat, and he has the link embedded in this. That's what's so incredible about Father Eamon's Stroll in Chat. So as we continue to, well, you can't see the sunrise, but I can certainly see it. It's reflecting off of my face, and I think Father Eamon might take us over to see that. It's just such a striking sight. And I believe I would make this comment that sunrises and sunsets never get old. It's not as if you've had enough and you never want to see the one for today. It's something that draws you in. And that's the interesting thing about Jesus. Even if you've heard a parable or if you've read a gospel passage 100 times, there's something that draws you back in. There's a beauty and there's a depth and there's a relevance in our life. And it's very similar to what draws us back every day to this Sunrise Stroll and Chat. And so I think that's what's going to make October such a beautiful month. Let's be drawn back to some of these basic truths that we know in our own hearts. That's something that stirs us up. And let's let our Lord speak to us again about those things. So I think it should be just a wonderful month. And thank you for letting me come in and mention the introductory videos as well. Things that you can watch. You don't have to watch them tomorrow, certainly. They'll be online and available the entire month if you'd like to just, hear about the relevance of a pilgrimage, how the history of it, why the Holy Land is important, all of those things, those tools that can help you on your path, on this pilgrim path that we have for our whole life. And by the way, once you've registered, you'll also receive an email with different materials to help you along during the month, if you'd like. It's a list of excellent books you can read, not just about pilgrimage, it's about Jesus' mother and his life, and these are from excellent theologians and thinkers. Then you'll also receive a copy of the document of Pope John Paul II, Rosario Virginis Mariae, which is a very simple document about the Rosary, since it's the month of the Rosary. And then also we have a little guide which can help explain the Christ-centered prayer that it really is. So all of those things are worth a registration. So thank you again, Father, for allowing me to come.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's great to have you here, and it's always great to have you here. So we are very thankful for all the blessings of being here. And actually, one of the thoughts I want to share with you in the talks that Kathleen is organizing and going to upload for you on the Magdala sites is, and the Magdala Facebook page and YouTube, is the uniqueness of what we're going to do this October here at Magdala, crossroads of Jewish and Christian history, where all the different Christian communities are at home. If it doesn't matter what your faith is, I think we also have Muslims here and Jewish people with us, and so there's a treasure here for a lot of people. And what I would like to see is how we pray together at a place like Magdala, how we leave room for each other, how there's some beautiful things happening here, that people who come sometimes with deep prejudice, a very different idea of what a Protestant is or a Catholic is, or a Jewish person, and they're meeting in Magdala, they're working together as volunteers. Even for us priests and consecrated, there's a whole process of getting familiar with the other and learning about the other. And so let's talk a bit more about that in one of the talks that are going to be posted, and you'll be notified about all of this, okay, when they're posted. God bless you. See you later, alligators. It was great having you this morning, and now we're switching over to Instagram in a moment. Have a wonderful, blessed day.